Good evening and welcome to the regularly scheduled meeting of the Plan and Design Commission of City of Highland Park for June 20th, 2023. Mr. Fontaine, will you please call the roll?
Commissioner Mantis.
Present.
Commissioner Brockman.
Present.
Commissioner Kirsch. Commissioner Hecht.
Here.
Vice Chair Moore.
Here.
Chairman Hainsfurther.
Here.
We have a quorum, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. We have several
I
items of
recognize
business.
Council
Yes.
Member
Lidauer.
Lidauer.
Yes, sorry.
And Student Rep Roberts is not present.
No, he's not with us tonight, which means it'll be a less instructive meeting, yeah. We have a couple items of business tonight. We have some minutes from two meetings to adopt, and we have scheduled business for continuation of a public hearing related to a zoning text amendment to amend the zoning uses for tobacco shops and other principal and accessory uses for sale of various products. We will be continuing a public hearing related to bicycle parking. And last but not least, we will recognize departing Commissioner Quinlan, which we will take first. So we have a proclamation. In addition to revoking your parking privileges from behind City Hall. Whereas Michael Quinlan served the Highland Park Plan and Design Commission with distinction as commissioner from January 2022 to June 2023, leading and participating in numerous projects integral to the improvement of Highland Park and the enhancement of life therein. And whereas in his role as commissioner, Michael Quinlan has contributed time, talent, and resources in his duties, and a special knowledge of development processes and appreciation for planning. And whereas in serving with honor, his services bear a hallmark of his steadfast integrity, wisdom, and excellence of character. And therefore, be it therefore recognized that the members of the Highland Park Plan and Design Commission do hereby recognize Michael Quinlan for his dedicated and unstinting public service as a member of the commission. And it is further recognized that as an expression of our respect and appreciation for Michael Quinlan's service, we affix our signatures as a permanent memento to our appreciation, dated this date, June 20th, 2023 in Highland Park, Illinois. So come on up. We not only have this lovely proclamation, but you can take with you your nameplate. With our much thanks. You're gonna have to come back and get Commissioner Kirsch to sign it though, so, and I think Joel has to sign it before you depart, right?
I did not. That's correct.
Oh, yeah, with the leaky pen.
That I could sign.
You got the leaky pen?
I'll get all the signatures.
So Michael, thank you so much. I mean, we're really going to miss your voice as a professional planner on this commission. You brought a lot of great insight to what we do, and hopefully you will not be a stranger, and you'll come back for things other than just to receive a proclamation. And good luck in your new role at Great Lakes Naval Training Center. Okay, thank you for coming in.
Thanks.
Now you can go, because I know you get up at 5 in the morning, so.
Can I ask for a motion and a second, a vote on adopting?
Oh, yes. Can I have a motion to adopt the
moved.
proclamation? Moved by Commissioner Hecht,
Second.
second by Vice Chair Moore. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Amazing. It's a unanimous vote. Thanks, Mike.
Yes, and then I'll secure Commissioner Kirch's signature and let you.
Drop it off at your house.
Yeah, take care of that when it's ready.
Thank you. All right, Mike. Have a good evening.
Take care. Thanks.
All right, next item of business is consideration of Plan and Design Commission meeting minutes from May 6th, 2023. That, of course, is the famous 4-minute,
May 16th.
no, May 16th. That, of course, is the, thank you, Kelly. I should recognize that Kelly is joining us in place of Marcus, who had an unfortunate encounter with another bicyclist the other day. So we're glad to have you here, Kelly.
Thank you.
So thank you for correcting me on that. This is the famous 4-minute meeting. So any comments on the 4 minutes worth of minutes?
have one comment.
Yes, ma'am.
On packet page 3, line 39, Chairperson Cullither is not,
Oh, we back to that
this is
again.
not the right meeting.
I'm
for
sorry,
that.
I missed that. How did I miss that?
Oh, sorry.
See, the warning sign went off. Please, make that change. With that change being mentioned, any further changes? Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Moved by Commissioner Heck, second by Commissioner Bruckman. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next item is approval of the meeting minutes from the regular meeting on June 6th, 2023. Any corrections? Yes, Vice Chair Moore.
So, this is on packet page 8, starting with line 10. In the testimony from Muammar Baydar, I thought I recalled he said something about the accessory products, although they're limited to the, 10 to 20% of the floor space, they do comprise a much larger portion of his business. And I thought he said something about that, and I feel we need to maybe review the minutes to verify that.
Okay, so we should probably then table this to the next meeting so that staff has a chance to look at the tape, if you don't mind.
Sure, I'd be happy to take all that, if there's other comments as well.
Well, let's see if there's anything else.
Listen to all the comments.
Anything else? No references to Chair Cullither tonight in this one? All right. So I'll take a motion to continue that, to table it, right? Isn't that
In
what I want
motion
to
to
do?
postpone to the next meeting?
Yeah, continue to the next meeting, which is July 17th, is that, 18th? I have a motion to continue this.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion made by Vice Chair Moore, seconded by Commissioner Hecht. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No, okay. I'm going to take the next one out of order just because it's a continuance and we can get on to the meat of the evening. Public hearing 2022-ZTA-001 for a zoning text amendment to modify Chapter 150, the zoning code, to add regulations pertaining to required bicycle parking standards, vehicle parking reductions for developments providing bicycle parking, internal parking lot pedestrian circulation systems, and requiring development connectivity to existing planned trails and multi-use paths. This item has been requested to be continued to our next meeting of July 18th. Do I have a motion to continue that?
So moved.
Moved by Vice Chair Moore, seconded by?
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Mantis. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
That item will appear on our July 18th agenda, and there will be no further notice with that. All right, next item of business is public hearing 2023-ZTA-001 for a Chapter 150 zoning code text amendment to amend or to prohibit or otherwise regulate the use of property for tobacco shops and other principal and accessory uses for the sale or use of tobacco products, e-cigarettes, smoking, vaping, and all related paraphernalia intended for smoking or vaping of any kind, regardless of products, in the various zoning districts of the city, and specifically as well as such other regulations may be necessary, important, or beneficial to the city and its residents. And this is a continuation of a public hearing that was last continued on June 6th. Mr. Burhop, do you have a presentation for us today?
Yes, thank you. Okay, so this is a continuation of this public hearing for the consideration of tobacco and smoking-related uses. For this, staff recommend the commission, again, open or continue the public hearing and take testimony as appropriate, consider the request and deliberate, and then adopt the findings of fact, FOF, findings of fact, recommending approval of the proposed changes if appropriate. The proposed changes I'll run through briefly right now. Okay, so I get into just a little bit more detail in the next slides, but these are the broad four changes that are the commission has thus far discussed. So number one, introduce a new principal land use called tobacco and smoking shop that will subsume the existing land use tobacco shops. This will include paraphernalia related to the legal use of tobacco and recreational drugs, and allow this new land use, tobacco and smoking shop, as a P permitted use per two sub-recommendations that I have on the next slide. Then this also adopts the existing tobacco shop parking requirement for this new land use. So that's number one. Number two, allow sales of smoking products and paraphernalia as an accessory use to other principal uses, provided that no more than 10% of the retail sales floor area of the establishment is dedicated to this display and sale of these products. Then there's a sub-bullet point here, as this was discussed 2 weeks ago by the commission. When measuring the floor area, that floor area should include the entire area of the adjacent aisle used to access the relevant products. For sales areas only accessible to employees, the area used by the employees to access the products shall be included. And then number 3 and 4, clarify that vape and e-cigarette shops are not permitted as principal uses, but only as accessory uses. And then strike tobacco shops throughout the code as necessary based on these changes. Okay, so I have 2 slides on the sub-recommendation. So this first slide just gets to the Plan and Design Commission's expressing their subsidiary recommendation beyond the zoning code amendment for the regulation of various products, including those there that are listed, but not limited to those. So vaping and e-cigarette, THC, CBD, or cannabinoid products, kratom, and those various Delta products, Delta 8 or Delta 9, and then other similar products, again, without limitation of this list. The PDC suggested that the City Council consider regulating the sale of the above products and base its 2 sub-recommendations on this choice. So if we go back to the first one, that 1 sub A is allowing tobacco and smoking shops as a permitted use based on 1 and 2 here. So 1, if the City Council does not further regulate without limitation those products listed on the prior slide, then the PDC's recommendation would be to allow the tobacco and smoking shop use as a permitted use in just the I, light industry, and the B3 highway commercial zoning districts with the following location requirements. Tobacco and smoking shops are only allowed in those portions of the I and B3 zoning districts located between the Union Pacific Railroad. So they'd have to be to the east of the Union Pacific Railroad or to the west of Highway 41. If the council does further regulate those products on the previous slide, the sale of those products, then the Plan and Design Commission's recommendation was to align the land use allowances with liquor stores. And actually, I have a table on this that makes this clearer. So for public comments, I just want to point out there were 3 new comments, I believe, in the packet. There were 2 post-packet items that were submitted. Those items submitted post-packet were emailed to the commission, and then I put hard copies out on the table right out here to the right so that the public can look at those, but they will be included in the next packet for the city council. And then I just want to remind the commission, well, state and remind. So one of the reasons that staff had asked for a continuance to this date was to provide a courtesy email notice to all tobacco license holders. That was done 12 days ago. That was sent out. And then in addition to that, staff also provided an additional reminder to all those license holders, the owners for which we have record on the LOI, plus all the interested parties, anyone who's submitted anything in writing and provided their email address, or anyone who gave us their email address at the prior meetings. We sent out a reminder to everyone on Friday as soon as the packet was posted. Okay, so just getting into real specifics here. So just to go back to what the 4 changes are. So this is the proposed definition. I'm not going to read it. I will point out that this is the same as what was in the prior packet and presentation, except for this last sentence here. Smoking and the use of e-cigarettes shall be prohibited in all tobacco and smoking shop uses, except as otherwise provided in section 100.021. That's just to make it, the commission had some concern, just to make it very clear and transparent, smoking is not allowed in these shops. And that exception there, well, if you go to that's only for those that existed prior to some date, I believe in April 2004. Otherwise, you can't do it if it's new. Right, and then just note here again, as already stated, vape and e-cigarette shops are not a permitted principal use per a specific definition in section 150.202. However, those retail sale of those products are allowed as accessory use. Okay, so there's two here, again, as already stated, but this is just the table. I mean, the table maybe explains it better. So if no further product regulation, the commission is recommending that these tobacco and smoke shops are allowed as a permitted use in the B3 and the I district. And as you can see how that compares to the current allowance for tobacco shops. That's a reduction in the number of districts that are allowed. And then if there is further product regulation, again, getting back to that specific stipulation, then it essentially aligns with liquor stores. So it would not be allowed in the B1 and B1A zoning districts, then otherwise matches the liquor store land use allowances. The buffers, I mean, again, I already discussed that. There was a recommendation for the buffer. If there's no further product regulations, if there are going to be additional product regulations, then the location limits would be the zoning district limitations. Parking, that one's been discussed several meetings. That has not changed. The new use tobacco and smoking shop subsumes tobacco shops. It's going to have the same parking requirement. The accessory use regulations, again, bullet point 1, I believe, is the same as 2 weeks ago. Bullet point 2 is this new clarification on measuring the actual floor area and how that will be done, and that's in response to comments by the commission from 2 weeks ago. Again, the change here is that second bullet point, or the one on the bottom, that says when measuring this floor area, the floor area shall include the entire area of the adjacent aisle used to access relevant products for sales areas accessible to employees only. The area used by employees to access the product shall be included. That's the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions for staff? You have one?
I think you addressed it, just to clarify, you mentioned one of the.
Sure, heck.
Where you talk about Delta,
The list is on this slide.
Yeah.
is there any differentiation within this between the different
Deltas?
8, Delta 9, I guess there's a Delta 10. I know that,
We just,
there's vast differences between Delta 8 and Delta 9, at least federally anyway, legally.
Wow. The city,
I'm just curious if there is. If there's not, that's fine.
If the
I want to
city-
make sure I understand.
Well, sorry, go
Director Fontaine?
this is not something that was the subject of our research. So, should the council want to regulate, I believe it's adequately described here. Should they want to regulate more, I mean, staff wouldn't just recommend that council just merely take these words. It would be a project unto itself to figure out what to regulate, how to regulate.
And
Yes.
council understands that, and I'm sure Corporation Council does.
Yes.
I mean, I think that we had talked at one point about just kind of an umbrella language that was
To get-
non-regulated cannabis type products, right?
And I think.
So whatever it is that they're gonna develop, when it if and when it became an ordinance, that would be up to Corporation Council,
That's
and
an-
they're very able at doing that.
That's an enforcement issue,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah. So
That's was my question.
Okay.
I just wanted to make sure.
I just want to make sure that from your viewpoint, because we've talked a lot about your ability to enforce these regulations if they go into effect, right? Particularly when we were talking about accessory use.
Right.
Is it, in your mind, clear enough that you can enforce it
Yes.
consistently?
Yes.
Yes.
That's
Okay.
Yes.
what we've drafted here is, we believe is enforceable, and actually really then, everyone has an expectation of what this can be.
They don't
right?
necessarily. Council Liaison Lidauer.
Just two quick questions. One is a clarification.
Sure.
And
and the other, I was not here earlier when y'all came up with, so I
Right.
want to ask about those two things. The first one is, assuming that council decides to go one way or the other in terms of regulating other products, does this align with alcohol? If there is additional regulation in terms of your recommendation, sales, and with marijuana sales, if there is, if there's less,
Right. Yes.
okay. I just want to
So,
make sure the two are
so
parallel.
I understand what you're saying,
Corporation
Councilmember.
Counsel, did you want to weigh in on
I would,
that?
no, I think this, you're talking about the accessory use portion, whether it's consistent. I think that's her
Yes, I
question.
just want to
Okay.
make sure that the two are parallel.
So hold on, there's two things. Are you talking
Directed
about the
to-
principal use or an accessory use? If it's a principal, okay, if it's principal use, yes, it does align. If it's accessory use, no, accessory use would be allowed as an accessory use in the business districts throughout the city, as it is now.
Good, so
Yep.
that's the smaller use. The principal use would follow up.
Would follow the essentially mirror liquor stores if you do regulate, and
If you don't, it,
be akin to, although not exactly the same as cannabis dispensaries if you choose not to, meaning the I zoning district and the B3 zoning district.
I understand that, but my
Right.
question is, why is it not directly aligned the same way as?
because, I mean, I can tell you from my opinion, I don't believe B3 allows cannabis sales, correct?
That's correct.
Right.
The B3 allows.
B3 does not, but there are in B3
Medical.
currently,
Medical.
medical.
As
In
Carl pointed.
B3, there are currently smoke shops that are in business there and have not, have been there for a long time and have not caused a problem.
Grandfathered in,
Well, no, I understand that,
so
but,
that's irrelevant.
but in this case, it's more of a highway commercial that's akin to
That's-
an I
I just
district.
wanted to make sure for
And then
identification.
I believe that the cannabis regulations call for, what is it, they can't be within 1,500, there's a distance
For
between
the-
them, right?
1,500 and it's only like a certain number within that area.
Right.
So I just wanted to
We're
make
not
sure
doing,
that
we're not putting that kind of buffer on this,
Okay.
all right?
So it's
But
loose.
basically, what we're trying to do,
Yes, it is.
I would say, is confine it to more, high-traffic, highway, commercial type districts,
And a
right?
bounded one if that.
And bounded one and
Because
provide,
it's between the right of ways, if
Right.
you recall.
Correct.
So that way you stay clear of residential districts.
correct, we want to keep it away from
One
residences.
clarification for
Nope,
when-
that's fine,
Yeah, I
that's
really
fine.
appreciate that. So that's
And,
number one.
and, okay, so the second issue was
The
what?
second, I was not here when you all were discussing
Mm-hmm.
this. I just was wondering for some rationale, again, so that when.
That's how we came up with this?
No, how you came up with the 10%. Because in reading the additional communications from business members of the community, and again, it's always balance, and I became concerned that in fact we would be restricting, even though current businesses are grandfathered in. I just wanted to make sure, is 10% the right number? How did you arrive at the 10%? And why is that the measurement in terms of paraphernalia, the accessory usage?
You want to, I think,
I raised that.
I think
Last time,
Commissioner
too.
Mantis was, one of the people who kind of spearheaded that discussion, so I'll let him.
So
I
I-
just wanted to understand.
Okay, let
That's
him
all.
on.
Certainly. So I think staff's recommendation originally was 20%. And then as we were talking, I think the kind of sense that we all got was that we wanted to kind of separate tobacco from vapes after some public testimony and comment, and we wanted to kind of sequester and limit that, the vaping and THC and things, and I'm sorry, not THC,
But-
CBD, non-regulated cannabinoids and
Right.
things like that. And so we wanted to kind of pull that back a little bit from 20 to 10 as a way of limiting
And
it.
let me kind of build on that further. I don't think that there's any business in town that I can think of that sells tobacco that won't fit in that 10% as an accessory use. I mean, certainly, huh?
Do we know that? Is
Well,
that-
that's my.
Well, I'm
my
gonna
next
tell
one.
you, my experience of designing convenience stores back in my past life, in a 3,000 square foot, convenience store, if you had, 12 feet of tobacco products, you probably had more than more than almost any other, more than most of the stores I designed. So 12 feet by, it's very narrow. It's, let's say maybe it's a total with an aisle of 5 or 6 feet.
So
You'll
that's-
fit within that
The
10%
easily.
comfortably, right?
My question then was to staff as the follow-up, if that 10%, which it sounds like it's very well reasoned, I have no problem with that. My question to staff was, I know invitations were sent to businesses and current people who sell these products.
Yep.
And, number one, how many letters were sent? Were they sent both times for this meeting and the previous meeting? Because I know we have one business, that has come both times. I don't know if we've had anybody else. Or have you spoken to anyone to kind of substantiate what the chair, as very wisely, he's worked in this product, but we also have businesses in this community, and I want to make sure that that's been substantiated with them.
Mr. Fontaine.
So we did notify the principal land use holders, the 5 of those businesses throughout the whole process. When the commission requested and directed that it be reduced from 20% to 10%, staff said that we thought then it made sense to notify the 15 other license holders that have accessory use tobacco licenses, basically. So that's how we got to here, and they've been notified of this meeting, not all the others, because we didn't think that was an issue. 20% of a store is a fifth of the store. So it really wasn't. But
Pretty big number.
again, the reason why staff thought it's important to deal with the accessory use portion of this is because we're going out of our way to deal with the principal use, but we don't want people to use that as an outlet to get around the principal use regulation. As soon as you squeeze the balloon here, it pops up over here. So I do feel that it is good rationale, and it does make sense if you're trying to control for the outcome, which the sensitivity from complaints was folks didn't like that there was these types of stores selling paraphernalia that appeared to be like a head shop. There was concerns about that in the downtown. There's concerns about that in general. There were concerns then also about these products that are being sold. So if you want to achieve the outcome of not having that be an issue for the community, we recommended an accessory use limitation. And the commission furthered that by reducing it further to a point where we do believe that it would be sufficient for folks in terms of those who want to sell it, but not necessarily sufficient for folks who want to bypass the principal use regulation by doing an accessory use.
Right.
So that's the rationale, to the best I could put it here on.
That's a good way to put it. I think in general, in looking at this, it's an issue of reflecting the values of the community, right? And we heard a lot of testimony, and we heard, for instance, from the gentleman who owns Old Chicago Smoke Shop down in Crossroads, right? They are what I would call a traditional tobacco shop, right? And so, we want to keep him in business, right, in the way that he is doing now. And if he was to sell that business, or the business was to go out, another business like that went in there, I don't think anybody has had the problem with tobacco, right? And I don't think it's, any kind of tobacco products, cigars, pipes, whatever. I think it's walking by one of these shops and seeing the paraphernalia in the window that kind of started this. I mean, probably what started the discussion because it came to council first, right? So, in looking at this, there were 2 ways to approach it. And one was, and we tried to do it both ways. All we can do is restrict land use. We can't restrict product sales. We think that based on the testimony we heard, that's a reasonable thing to do, is to restrict the product sales to get to the point where, again, you're reflecting hopefully the values of the community. So in our mind, that these are cannabis-like products, let's call it. And so they should be treated like cannabis, right? As long as they're allowed to sell those products. If you don't take that away, then we believe it's treated like a liquor store. So the language and the districts reflect what we allow for liquor stores, which is, you know, in our minds, not unreasonable to treat it that way. And again, we don't want it, I think the 10% came up just because we looked at a fifth of the store as being rather excessive, right? So 10% seemed to be a fair amount. We didn't get any comments, you know, the only comment really letters from operators or testimony was the people you heard from last meeting, the gentleman from Old Chicago Smoke Shop, and now we got a letter from the landlord from the shopping center at Old Elm and Western, who, you know, I appreciate what he had to say, but we don't allow a liquor store in a neighborhood commercial use. I don't think the smoke shop's appropriate in a neighborhood commercial use with, regardless, right? So that's kind of how we've arrived, I think, at where we are. Is that a fair summary,
Yeah,
y'all think?
I think it is, Mr. Chairman, and I also would just point out that, so the gentleman who came out from the smoke shop down on, in Crossroads,
Yes.
those uses there are in the B3 zone, is that
Right.
right, Carl?
That is correct. That
So
would
they
be
would be in
They're
either
allowed no
case
matter-
allowed,
yes.
correct? So they would be in either
Right.
case allowed by right. Okay, the other gentleman you mentioned up at Old Elm, that zoning district, they
Is
would not
B1,
be allowed.
right.
At B1,
But-
in either case.
But in the case of the
In either-
gentleman who testified last meeting, who was, I think, the gentleman who owns the shop on St. John's, if you don't regulate the sale of the product, he wouldn't be allowed to be there. If you regulate the sale of the product, he's allowed to be there,
Right.
right? If you don't, he's not. He's allowed to
is.
stay there, until, well, that brings up another point. Why don't you explain abandonment? Because if the use is not abandoned, they're allowed to be
So
there.
there's certain grandfathering rights that, zoning, that they have through zoning. So the uses that are legal, existing uses can stay, legal, pre-existing uses. They can continue on. Changing those uses becomes the question, right? So, if they ever go out of business, there's abandonment clauses in our zoning code that if it's too long a time, you can't reinitiate a use that's not allowed. So you may not be able to restart that use. That doesn't mean it can't change ownership. It doesn't mean it can't change. It just means that if it goes out for a specific time and been considered abandoned, then you can't revive that
And
use,
that time
location.
is,
That was
About
the next-
2 years. 2 years. So
So it doesn't matter if it's a lessee or an owner of a building, it's about the use
it's about the
itself.
use.
the use.
And
The use.
a reasonable period of time in terms of abandonment.
Right.
Because a lot of times, it's
Yeah, there's
bad,
changeover.
but,
One
2
could,
years is a long.
2 years is a long
Our
time.
abandonment
Right.
clause is pretty generous.
It's pretty generous,
so
right?
that's great. That's phenomenal.
I mean, most
there's
of them, if they
that.
go
So-
out, they can't come back in.
Right, so, the existing businesses will be able to continue to operate, provided that they're legal, pre-existing businesses, so. I just want to point out that, to Councilmember Littauer's line of questioning, that the board this is hinging on the regulation of certain products for use, okay? The CBD, the THC, and these other Delta, all this. I will say, though, that the board, that's what this is all hinging on, not the paraphernalia. I just point that out.
It's the
Okay?
product.
Right, so that's something council will have to consider, so.
Right, but this helps inform
That's
council's
fine.
decision.
Right.
I'm glad you asked those questions,
And it
Annette.
really does help define in terms of
Right.
peripheral use and main usage, and the fact that those accessory uses
Right.
may service those types of things in any case.
Right.
And so if those are banned, the 10% obviously becomes much easier for a store owner. And if those things are not, they're in more limited locations. So, and
Right.
you've given us a good rationale. That's all
Right,
I'm saying.
and
And-
so just, you could have a situation where the council chooses to, under this set of recommendations, should the council choose to take one of them, based on, if you regulated these products, then you're going to have similar to liquor stores, these types of shops would be allowed. And that would mean that although the regulated products like THC, CBD, and kratom and other things may not be allowed to be sold, the paraphernalia would still be able to be sold. So it may not look any different to someone on the street. That's all I'm pointing out. And
No,
I
that's
don't
helpful.
even know that the current shops are actually selling the THC, CBD, or any of those. I don't know.
They have
whether
signs
they all
in there.
are.
They have
They
signs
are.
that say
They have
they do,
signs, but
so
are they selling it? I
we
just
don't know.
pointed out, we did not audit that, in other
You'll
words.
have more work to do when this comes to
Right.
council, don't worry.
And, if the council wants to have first of all, I'm comfortable that the staff can clearly express the rationale that we came with, but if the council wished to have a further discussion, I'm always available to the council to appear and to discuss that. All right, any other questions of staff? All right, we will open for public comment with the understanding of several things. First of all, if you have testified before and have been sworn, please state that, state your name, spell it for our minute taker, and please do not repeat what you have told us before, either in testimony or in writing. I think we've all understood what you've had to say, and hopefully we have listened carefully to that. So with that, anybody testifying will have 3 minutes to address the commission. No one? Good. Thank you. All right, with that, we have proposed findings of fact in front of us for adoption. Let's get a motion on the table to recommend or deny the findings of fact to the city council.
So this is basically 2 findings of facts that would be going to city council. We were approving both.
But we're doing it at the same time, correct? We can do that. I mean, there's 2 different approaches here,
Right.
right? I'm looking at Kelly, who's quickly looking through her
No.
documentation, right?
Well, so it's really up to the board. So if you can choose to adopt all of the findings as they exist in Exhibit 1, you can choose to adopt some of them, none of them.
Yeah.
So as they are drafted
So, I mean,
here,
I think the question was, we're making 2 basically recommendations
Yes.
depending on city council taking action
So if-
on this. Are those both in one set of findings of fact?
Yeah, so the way
Okay.
I drafted them, I drafted one set of findings
Okay.
of fact, but if you read through them at 1 or 2 points.
Says A or B?
Yes, it says if council does A or if
Okay.
council does B, so that's the way.
and that's
So that's
typical,
one
that's fine.
findings of fact.
Okay, so move that we approve those findings of
Moved
fact.
by Vice Chair Moore. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Bruckman. All right, discussion. Anybody want to discuss this? Or have we beaten it to death?
I'm sorry I helped you.
No, we've had, what is this, hearing number 4 on this? Yeah, I think it's hearing number 4. We've spent a lot of time, and I will say this is maybe as discussion, but I want to commend the commission. I think we always do a good job of really focusing and finding what works, right, for both the petitioner, in this case, the city and its residents, and the businesses that are in town in this case. And we spend a lot of time doing that, and we have a lot of really good, meaningful discussion. And I think this is just an example of that. I think we've come up with a solution that seems to make a lot of sense to me. And hopefully it will make sense to the city council. So with that, yes,
Mr. Chairman, I just want to make mention, to thank Commissioner Hecht for, asking staff about the enforceability of the accessory regulation and to putting a finer point on that. And I do think it's a better product because of it. So thank you, and the commission and Commissioner Hecht.
and I also want to, even though he's not here, I want to salute both former student commissioner Mendoza and current student commissioner Roberts, because I think they really helped us with this, because I think a lot of these products obviously are geared toward them, unfortunately. So I thought they really contributed to the discussion. All right, with that, you want to call the roll, please, Mr. Fontaine?
Commissioner Mantis,
Aye.
Commissioner Bruckman,
Aye.
Commissioner Hack,
Aye.
Vice Chair Moore,
Aye.
Chairman Hainsworth.
Aye.
The ayes have it. This motion.
5 ayes, no nays. That motion carries. It will be in front of the city council at a future date.
The anticipated date is next week, Monday, actually. The June 26th meeting, tentatively, Mr. Chairman.
Tentatively on June 26th. Thank you all,
Get this all
particularly
wrapped up
for
on that
the
one.
folks who have been here for several meetings. We appreciate your help and input. All right, on to other business. Is there an administrative design review update? No. For the commissioners and for the general public, there will be only one meeting in July. That will be July 18th, 7 o'clock in the council chambers. I urge you all to participate on July 4th, which would be our normal meeting date, in some of the city activities to remember this very solemn occasion.
Register, you must
Yes,
register
and
online.
please, register online, I have, for most of the events, I know, for the ceremony at City Hall to remember what we went through a year ago, and then the community walk down the parade route, and the exciting drone show with Lieutenant Dan and his band, Gary Sinise and his band,
And the picnic.
and the picnic. I don't think you have to register for the picnic,
You don't have to register.
but everything else you
The
do.
drone show, we're over 3,000, and we have
Yep.
a capacity of 3,500.
Yep, so you're
So
getting
if you want to
close.
be at Walters Field, you need to register
Yep.
soon. Otherwise, you can.
I do have a registration. I think I can scalp to that, because I think my kid is working that
Okay,
night.
no scale.
All right, so that'll be the next, we'll negotiate. With that, case briefing.
I do not, Mr. Chairman.
Any business from the public? No one here. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. We're adjourned. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Yeah.